Hi, I'm Alan Repke, Inform TV in Alexandria, Minnesota. I put together a 1-hour observational documentary on needed change at the Alexandria Airport. Yet at the same time, for you, Tim Arell, when you're putting on 90 safety meetings on airports around the country, including St. Cloud, Minnesota, I think this video would be a good precursor for the people that attend those meetings to understand what these private jet pilots face, as well as regional jet pilots that come into airports of choice where the modern flyer wants to get to where they want to be. They don't want to drive another hour or 2 hours to get to Lake Country or to Upper Michigan. They want to get on a private jet or a regional jet that will take them there. And in the case of Alexandria, we have the ability, with help from the FAA, the state of Minnesota, and some local funds, to see that that's happened, and so that we have a safe airport and that all the passengers on these private jets as well as regional jets have an opportunity to look what goes on, or what they think is going on, compared to what is really there or should be improved, without spending hundreds of millions of dollars like the FAA did in Williston, North Dakota. Enjoy this video, for you will be informed. And yes, you can support Inform TV at Box 333, Alexandria, Minnesota, or share the link on the Inform TV channel on YouTube, and make sure you and your friends subscribe. Already crabbing good? That's why I want to give them another 350 feet on the one end, so they actually have 5,700 feet of asphalt under them. Rain or shine, these big jets are going out of here. Some beautiful aircraft, top of the line. That's a transcontinental airplane, I believe. There'll be a higher fence put up. In fact, we could put 2 up to block any excess noise. Very nice aircraft. Here we go. That light is what I want them to bring to give them a little more runway, both here and on the northwest end. We'll see how much blast he gives us. Oh yeah. No problem at all. We'll see as he takes off. As they say, there's engines under that aircraft. Doing all these safety factors sets us up to bring passenger service into Alexandria, just like Brainerd and Bemidji. I want to bring it up at least a foot from the present end of the runway, if not 2, to also deflect higher any jet wash. But my camera was here, so you got an idea of the reality of, yes, we can, as a good Christian town here in Alexandria and Minnesota nice, we want to make sure these business jets come into Alexandria and come in safely and leave safely. I'll fan out just a little bit here and show you where I'm at, and I'm looking through at eye level for me, so I suppose that'd be about a little over 5 feet, 5.5 I suppose. And you can see we can make this even a more unique airport than it is. And that's what we need to do, so we have a progressive city here. Alan Repke reporting, so you know we're on top of this. Now we're on the end by 29, and there's some room to stretch the threshold here. This is 5,100 feet. Look at the Alexandria Airport. We're looking at the end here. The lights and signals for instrument landing. There's the threshold on the end. And this instrument landing equipment. One of the reasons that I wanted to show you that cut from a business jet coming into Alexandria from JFK in New York City, that when they land, I'm not changing the landing. The landing planes will land the same the way they have always. We're not bringing them right over, and yet people love to stand on these islands and various sites where they are really close. But in this case, we're going to be landing not this big a plane, but the planes will be landing just like the jet from JFK that I showed you. And yes, they might be a little bigger with regional jets, but that's fine. Yet at the same time, the displaced threshold will bring them safely 350 feet closer to 29. So when people are driving on 29, they'll say, "Oh, I guess Alexandria isn't that sleepy little town. Look at the jets they got taken off here." Here's an article in Simple Flying where the U.S. Senate Commerce Committee introduces $107 billion for aviation policy. Nobody wants to tap that in this area but me. Now I'll give you a quick little upgrade on the engineering firm that City Hall has hired both to do the upgrade of overlaying our runway as well as look at future operations in Alexandria. And I'm saying it's time we get some public input with those folks from Alan Repke. And we're talking, they show us the Ely Airport where they upgraded that to a 5,600 foot field, 100 foot wide, as well as updated their lighting system and some other things, which also needs to be done here. And one of the other things, when I talked to one of these guys when they were in that first part, waiting for Craig and the two guys from the FAA in Minneapolis that had never been out here before, we said, "What do you want, 5,500? I said, "Yeah, at least." And you see right here, they know that the 5,100 foot field, people want a stretch on that to 5,500 to 57.5. And I'm going to show you how we can do that here in Alexandria with their help, as well as our Congress woman Fishbach, as well as our two U.S. senators. It's time to bring the Alexandria Airport back to its glory days like it had in World War II. Now let's look at the airfield itself, so we get that built to standards that put us in a fantastic position to be very flexible in flight in Alexandria. What we need to be doing to the Alexandria Airport so it's safer for all jets, and we're ready for bringing passenger service into Alexandria in the very near future. First of all, you have to understand we're not doing anything to the landing distance on this end of the airport or the other end of this runway. And what I'm getting at here is that jet you just watched land, even with displaced threshold of 350 feet on this end, they still would have landed the same way. The only difference, what am I doing with our runway as far as landing right now? Runway 310 heading to the northwest. I'm not doing anything other than for jets or heavy aircraft like our UPS plane at times that comes in here, that I want to see that we add displaced threshold right here. And you should be able to see the lines in my primitive cut here. What I'm showing you now is what I was getting at with that Gulfstream 550 taking off and me standing down in this area outside the fence perimeter. And here's the target that I want to stretch our runway 350 feet. It's just a few feet beyond this light here. There must be an old fire hydrant or something here. Lines up with parallel to where the Alex Sewer District guys have something. So now when the business leaders in our community or here on business or at their cabin or potential business, these people all have another 350 feet of pavement under that jet, plus when they get to the other end that I'm about to show you, they'll have another 285 feet. So when they get on here, they'll be just like as if they were on a 5,750 foot runway, which is a secondary runway for many airports for business jets and regional carriers like I'm talking to come into Alexandria. It's set up for safety, it's set up for the 21st century. I'll give you a little more of a formal look, folks, and we're talking about the same three firms, TKDA, our engineering firm, the FAA office in the Twin Cities, as well as Governor Walz's aviation division on his Department of Transportation. And they put this together, I'm sure, a 500-foot addition on the St. Cloud Airport, and they use displaced threshold, which I'll be talking about in our presentation here in this video you're about to watch. But I want you to think about here. Here's St. Cloud's runway 31 to the northwest. So imagine our runway 31 that I'll be showing you some additional shoots at. And up in the far corner here, the green, that would be the Alexandria Clinic. And so when our planes have normally come from our present hangars and terminal, they come and they get on 31 and they take off, whether they're jet or Shelley Johnson's Alexandria Aviation 172s for training, as well as the 50 private pilot hangars that we have here, that are all just prop planes. And what I'm getting at here, if we get the Minnesota 3, our engineering firm, the FAA, and the Minnesota Department of Transportation, to do something like this on the south side of our runway here and make it more formal, where a jet can just come up here, get on the 350 feet that I'm proposing of displaced threshold rather than 500 that St. Cloud has. So when these jets, including our favorite son now, Craig Anderson, who is soon going to be flying for NetJet. And so he's got more safety, as well as our most important celebrity in town, Brock Lesnar, and his professional wrestling, cage fighting, and whatever else he does. And so when they would come across on our taxiway, rather than just take off with 5,100 feet under them. They would come on the south side in some configuration that TKDA or the FAA in the Twin Cities arranges. So those jets come and they line up right here on displaced threshold, which in the Alexandria case would be 350 feet, and take off. And if they do the displaced are the blast pad and displaced threshold on the northwest end that I'm about to show you, all of a sudden Craig Anderson, Brock Lesnar, and potentially air service here that you people will be riding on as well. Suddenly all the jets are taking off with 5,750 feet for the maximum safety for the footprint we have here in Alexandria. Under a pavement under these jets. And historically now I found out that I want to make sure the Minnesota 3 that are working on this project understand that there was actually 5,800 feet in this position, 150 feet wide of concrete, and the cross runway was asphalt, 5,800 feet. So, but I'm talking at doing the smart way, doing the less disturbance way of, on this end, do displaced threshold of 350 feet, and on the other end, do some displaced threshold, but there's tar all the way to those antennas, those localizers on that end that might not even be there in the future. So all of a sudden, these jets have what they want, 5,750 feet. I want to show you what we need to do to make additional safety factor on the northwest end of runway 31 in Alexandria. As you can see here, this is where the planes presently come. Here's a Google map picture of catching a small aircraft. They come up here and they take off and down the runway with 5,100 feet of pavement under them. Show you that we extend the pavement here all the way to these localizers or antennas for the instrument landing system. Here that's maybe 30 feet long, or a jet that can be anywhere from 60 to 100 feet long. Using my primitive third world income aircraft, the jets right now come up like this and sit here and then do their takeoff roll, just like the other planes. And what I'm proposing that is done for safety and to bring our airport into the 21st century is this. In 2024, when we do tar work out at the airport, I want to see that we make another 100 feet on this end with displaced threshold that the small planes just ignore and go on their way. So now when a jet is waiting here for traffic to clear, he waits here just like the other plane, or this little plane is there in the corner, and then rather than just go up here like he had normally done and have just 5,100 feet of pavement under him, suddenly that pilot, that jet pilot, comes to this. We put some additional tar area right here So he turns here and ends up there with an additional 100 feet where that jet sits. And from a standpoint then of takeoff, when he's taking off to the southeast, this direction on runway 13, he takes off here, he's gained 100 feet. There's still plenty of room here for jet blast, for we have these jet blast marks here. There'll be about 185 feet here for protection for those antennas. And as I've said before, from pilots, they said, well, remind those guys, most of the jets flying out here are going to have tail engines, and the bottom of those engines are usually about 7 to 8 feet off the ground. And from a standpoint then, when this jet pilot takes off, comes out here, has a nice way to swing around to get an additional 100 feet for his takeoff towards the southeast, he is suddenly looking at, he's got an additional 100 feet here, his traditional 5,100 feet here, plus on the far end down by Highway 29 and County Road 46, he has another 350 feet. And that, my friends, is adding a tremendous amount of safety to this airport. When an airplane is taking off for the other end, suddenly, rather than just 5,100 feet of runway, they started out with 350 displaced threshold on the other end, plus the 5,100 we've always had here, plus from a standpoint of pavement under them, suddenly the pavement goes out to here, which is 5,750 feet. Just think of that jet that I just showed you that is taking off with a full load of fuel heading to the west coast. They have suddenly a major safety factor under them and have the runway length that they know they can put enough fuel on to get any place in the lower 48. And that's what we're shooting for, because Alexandria has become a destination for jets, and when we upgrade our airport for the 21st century, we have to face what is happening here right now, plus we have to prepare for regional jet passenger service and make sure all those aircraft are as safe as humanly possible. And all we have to do here when we do the tarring is add about 285 feet all the way down to these antennas. And in the future, they might not even be there. They might be just handling GPS. And from a standpoint, if the FAA wants these here for instructional purpose or older planes coming in, they're still here. Suddenly, we have a much longer runway and a safety factor on this end. The other thing on this runway that was just 100 feet that I've been saying we need to go out 12.5 feet on each side so we have a more safety factor in the wintertime or a sudden gust of wind. So rather than making this 100 feet wide, let's make it 125 feet. Or the FAA insists when you go from 100 feet like we got now, you have to go to 150. I say hooray to that. But you still have this area here then going all the way with tar down to those localizer antennas. So we have the safest and the most progressive runway with our unique situation to bring not only more private jets in here but we're set up to bring regional air carriers in as well. And believe me, they'll want to come once they see we addressed our airport the correct way in 2024, rather than just the way the Airport Commission wants to keep it the same way it's been for the last 25 years for their enjoyment, and they can still enjoy it, and I'm putting a safety factor on both ends for them as well. So you understand where we're coming to make the Alexandria Airport a destination for private jets as well as regional air carriers, if we're smart enough to put the terminal together like I'm about to show you. Now, before I switch to show you the ideal spot for a terminal here in Alexandria, I just want to show you the significance of these two counties in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and their brilliance to see the power of essential air service into their communities, the surrounding small towns, the counties that also surround this airport, the significance of what that can do for a community that is progressive and ready to see that their citizens have what they need. There it is. Here we go, folks. A Denver Air connection just came in to Ironwood, Michigan. Just think if we could get Alexandria to do this. It just came in from Chicago. Looks like they're flying the Dorner 328 rather than the Embraer 145. Yes, indeed, it's the Embraer, or no, it's the Dorner 328, the same plane that Denver Air flies out of Thief River Falls. Could easily fly out of here as well in Alexandria. Okay. All right. Progress. Looks like Ironwood, Michigan is getting ready to send that 328 Dorner back to Minneapolis, and then after they unload in Minneapolis, they'll take the same plane, will go to Thief River Falls for their evening return flight, all flying almost right over Alexandria, yet we have no air service. Here we go. That 328 Dorner is getting ready to take off from Ironwood, Michigan, back to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then later with a flight to Thief River Falls. All while Alexandria, that has a much bigger community, a equal or better size for resorts. They have a ski lodge, we have a ski lodge, but we've got Geneva Capital, SunOpta, 4 secondary packaging companies that send people out on flights to service this sophisticated packaging. We have just a number of things, but our technical school, our advanced high school, and 300 lakes around here. Just think of what we could do if we would get our senators and Fischbach to revive essential air service and use an example of Alexandria and bring people into the heart of the land of 10,000 lakes that is modern, a new coal store, Menards, and so on. If our surrounding counties can work together for waste management, just think what we can do for the benefit of Pope County, Douglas County, Stevens County, Grant County, Otter Tail County, Todd County, and Stearns County, if we just work together to get air service into the Alexandria Lakes area. For I know this waste facility has engineers coming in from time to time on private jets, so it's important that we make it safe for them as well. But just think of the cost savings we could have for our joint waste management center if we could just tell those engineers, why don't you just grab the morning flight and fly out here on commercial airline rather than charge us for a business jet. Just see the incredible service that Ironwood, Michigan has for their citizens and to bring people to their community. They have one flight a day that comes out from Minneapolis and unloads people in Ironwood, Michigan. They reload that same plane and send it to Chicago O'Hare. Then they unload in Chicago and bring a load back to Ironwood, Michigan, unload there and fill it back up with people that are destined for Minneapolis, St. Paul. Just think what this benefit would be for our packaging industry, our businesses, our Bible camps, and so on down the line. Just look at the significance if we had Denver Air Connection to come in here once a day, 6 days a week, and fly to Minneapolis, St. Paul, where they're connected with United and American, and then get Delta to fly one flight a day out to Alexandria. Look what that would do for our packaging industry, our businesses in general, our cabin owners, and our resort industry. Places like Arrowwood, our Bible camps, and all the surrounding communities. Well, as a regional jet would come down the taxiway, and I'm just going to show you the lines. I originally thought the FAA would probably just add to this tarmac out from these buildings, but more I think about it, they will want a separate taxiway like we've got right here, 50 or 60 feet wide. So I thought I'd better come out and take a quick cut of that. And I'll just move over wide enough to clear the fire hydrant and the buildings, and then a direct route into the terminal area. And what I'm saying, the FAA requirements probably would just be run a separate 50 or 60 foot wide taxiway straight to the east, and then ready to turn to the south on the east side of those blue buildings or hangars down there. And I'll just swing quick here to show the taxiway from runway 422, and they would come up here, they would flare the taxiway for easy turn in yellow lines just like I shown, and then any regional jet or business jet that would want to come to the new terminal location, they would come off of 1331, and so this taxiway serves both. And then we're just going to walk straight ahead. If I can hold my camera half steady, and I'll walk into beans, cutting on and off. It'll give you a little idea. Would be walking down the center of a 50 or 60 foot wide taxiway, then there's no interference with those hangars over there. And I presume that's what FAA policy would require. So now I'm in the beans and we'd be heading straight east. Imagine that we're on a taxiway that's 50 or 60 feet wide with a yellow line down the middle for the planes to follow. And then we're totally leaving those hangars alone, or that additional tarmac up there out far enough that even the fire hydrant wouldn't have to be moved. And we'll just keep going straight ahead until we would turn to the south to get to the terminal area. And it'd be a fixed base out from that tarmac from the terminal there, and you can see being here we're plenty far away from the fire hydrant. That wouldn't even need to be addressed, but we would just keep going straight to the east until we get far enough by these hangars to turn in to what I call the temporary terminal. That's a new one could be built in the future right to the west of that. And coming this way straight, if they ever wanted, we get busier, wanted to keep a taxiway to go to the main runway 1331 down there by 29, it would easily be done. And I'll just swing around here to give you an idea where I've just come from. And we would be on top of the taxiway, in the middle of the taxiway, with either 25 or 30 feet on each side of us to taxi regional jets into the terminal area. The taxiway would go straight into those trees and then be able to turn in to our temporary terminal building, with the ability to build a new one to the right to the west of that, and just an incredible amount of parking for the future to the west as well. And the taxiway would go straight in towards those trees, and then the regional jets or business jets could turn into the terminal area there and make a swing on a pad there and come right back out to get out to either of our two runways. Our taxiway that we're talking about would come right down to here, and then those regional jets or business jets could swing into a asphalt or concrete tarmac right in front of that building and check passengers through there, and possibly to start with even use that house as a waiting area for passengers once they went through security, come out and get on the plane or get off, and then make a turn on tarmac there and go right back out in the area that we just kind of laid out in general for a taxiway for the FAA, TKDA, and Minnesota Department of Transportation to take care of. The regional jet would come to about here and start to make their turn to head straight north, and then could stop and either unload or load passengers, and then the pad would be almost out to the pad from those hangars up there. Once again, catch the taxiway and go to either one of our two runways. With a fairly high wood or whatever the FAA requires of tall fence here to block any excess jet noise when they turn or whatever. And yes, it could be this way a little bit, but it serves a very common function. I looked at a lot of airports on Google, as well as drove to North Dakota a couple years ago and looked at theirs. And I'll show you a few clips, and then if I have time on this tape. As you can see here, we already have 72 parking spots marked out on this piece of concrete or piece of asphalt that's already here. And look at how handy that would be to go into this building as our temporary terminal. And then in the future, we build a larger, bigger one right to the west of it. And just an awful lot of prime parking to the west here on each side of this fence. There's just endless parking here right on the north side of Douglas Machine that wouldn't even need to be tarred with our heavy sandy soil right here. And as I turn my camera here, we even get some windbreak from the hangars that are presently there. And look at all the area we have here to park cars and go in to what I call the temporary terminal, yet it may be adequate in the future as well. Or we could just add the additional loading area, just move that house out of there that's used for a classroom right now. But remember, we're on airport property, and this should be used for airports. We need to get our school kids by the schools if we're going to transition them into the mainstream, which should be the goal of all these special programs. Another fire hydrant right here, and you're looking right at that taxi way that goes to runway 22-4, and that we would extend about 750 feet of displaced threshold there. In other words, just for takeoff. And so all planes, they would be, when they taken off on runway 22 to the northeast, would be much higher over the city. And in many cases, they wouldn't even have to go over the city. They could make their left-hand turn before the city. And yes, for the individuals that have hangars here, they would come on a new approach right by this fence here, and on or around the parking lot, and come straight into their hangars, much more direct than the other route, with a security gate here, of course, and all is well. And as you can see, we could add on to that brick building, flare it out, and this would be, you would have 75 feet to this fence, and you'd have another 100 feet to the tarmac there. So you'd have plenty of room to make a nice terminal. But at the start, we could use what we have right here. And as you can see, in the wintertime, the hangars that are already here would be a great windbreak and snow break. And you can even put an observation deck above this building, and yes, maybe even a restaurant. A well-laid plan if we just utilize it and bring Alexandria into the 21st century, just like Bemidji, Brainerd, Hibbing, International Falls, and Thief River Falls already are with their airports and scheduled air service. Our present area is over there. It just doesn't have the room or the parking for the future. Where this area is what many airports that are trying to do this right now all around the country are saying, we want a regional airport that when you get off the airplane, in 7 minutes you're on the street. And old Palanca building that made bi-wing spray planes and whatever aircraft parts. In 29, the city gets that building back or negotiates ahead of time and gets it earlier, but that could be used for a hangar or whatever to serve our airport. Maybe that could be the terminal in the future, but I think we would be much better off to keep terminals in this way and west. And we're only about 3 miles from Interstate 94. Some of the aircraft that would likely come into Alexandria with passenger service. And what I'm getting at here, I want you to understand they'll be anywhere from 70 to about 100 feet long, with a wingspan anywhere from 60 feet to about 100 feet. And so you just have a little idea what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about 737s or Airbus 320 that are carrying 186 passengers. The significance when I turn on the map for all the regional carriers that serve the major airlines, American, Alaska, Delta, and United. Look how they cover the entire 48 plus up into Canada and Mexico. So just look at the significance for the Alexandria Airport if we tap into the regional jet market to just do a test flight. This particular aircraft holds 30 passengers and operates on a daily basis from Thief River Falls to Minneapolis, St. Paul and back with 2 flights a day. And this would work well if we had a plane like this based out of here, or convince Denver Air Connection that there's room for sure to fly 1 flight a day. They have some lap time in the Twin Cities before they do their evening flight back, and this could easily run 1 flight a day out to Alexandria and back to Minneapolis. Another aircraft on the top end that we could potentially come in here after we get everything organized would be the very popular Airbus 220/100. This carries a little over 100 passengers. This is an Embraer 135 that holds anywhere from 30 to 37 passengers. There's the Embraer 140 that holds anywhere from 30 to 44 passengers. There's the Embraer 145 that holds 50 passengers. These 130, 140, 145 have an incredible safety record and have been flown all over the world, but are being replaced with the E-Series, the 170, 175, 190, and 195. The 3 ERJ Embraer aircraft I just told you are very popular, still flown all over the world, and will be for a number of years. This is the E175 that's becoming very popular with the major airlines that I just showed you their route map. This is the ideal plane for our airport, and it's the Embraer 170. And this particular plane, as you can see, is in use by Delta and a lot others. The interesting thing about this, why it's so ideal for short fields, as the most popular version. This was the first version of the E-Jets from Embraer in Brazil. This was a 170, then they moved to 175, and the airlines are ordering the 175, which leaves this one looking for a home. And the nice thing about this one is this has the same engines as their bigger brother now, the 175. And the 175 holds anywhere from 6 to 10 seats more than this one. But this one, the way it's set up, is like almost 70 seats. When you look at their schedule, it goes all the way to Omaha. And what I'm looking at, a nonstop to Omaha, and our state representative, Fishbach, she could get on a Delta connection plane from right by the river there in Washington, D.C., and fly nonstop to Omaha. And then, if we do what Alan Repke is saying, get our airport moved to a passenger status and put a terminal, an interim terminal that I'm soon going to show you. She could stay on that plane and fly into the heart of her congressional district without ever getting off a plane from DC. Show Delta and other carriers there's some real advantages to be involved in the Alexandria Airport. And if nothing else, just for the summer months. But at the same time, we need to apply for essential air service, that we could have a 30 passenger or a plane like this going 1 or 2 trips a day to MSP in Minneapolis, and then really be in the airline operation just like the smart people at Brainerd, Bemidji, Hibbing, International Falls, and Thief River Falls. But there are just a number of things, a number of planes, and there's a couple more that would work here. But why I'm talking, you're always working for safety. You want the runways a little bit longer than they're required, and a little wider, because we have winter here. And when I talk to pilots, these private jet pilots, they all, hey, if you can get us a little more width here and a little more length, we'll love it. And now with Craig Anderson, our former airport manager, is going to be flying a second seat in a private jet. We're even making it more safe for Craig Anderson when he comes in on a private jet flight with clients to Alexandria. Put us in a fantastic position to be very flexible in flight in Alexandria. Just wanted to give you a pictorial view of how we can put some displaced threshold on the southwest corner runway 422 that'll actually give planes the ability to get airborne higher before they go over the city of Alexandria. And as you can see from my position, have no negative effect on Douglas Machine in any manner, shape, or form, or highway traffic. Well, I believe you understood well what I was talking about, our main runway here in Alexandria, 3113, of extending that as soon as possible. For you to understand that that pilot that took over from that young lady that was flying it all the way from JFK, but at the last minute because of wind, he did the landing crosswind, extreme crosswind, and which is also hard on equipment, airplanes, and stressful for pilots. The point though that he made was the fact that if we simply added 500 feet here on that taxiway and come out to here and add 500 feet here, suddenly the crosswind runway is 4,600 feet. Then he would have used it, or any other jet pilot coming in that needed a crosswind runway because of extreme wind. But the reality is, the young co-pilot said it would be better if it was 5,100 to give them some additional flex. And the reality is, folks, we can do that if we first start here by adding 500 feet here, so this runway suddenly becomes 4,600 feet. Yet at the same time, if we added 750 or 800 feet of displaced threshold here simply for takeoffs, as well as you have to understand, when you put displaced threshold, you can't land on it, but if your landing extends, it's totally legal for pilots to use it then. So suddenly, if we started with 4,600 feet here and we put another 700 or 800 feet here, suddenly from that direction, there's 5,300 feet of safe landing when we get regional jets in here and more private jets coming in. Yet at the same time, once again for safety and not to create any more problems, the private pilots could still turn right here, and then you put a leg out here for this runway, and at the same time you make it 100 feet wide on this end. But at the same time you put another 500 feet of displaced threshold here, that so when a regional jet or these private jets that are going a long distance in the lower 48, and that's what they all want to reach, and we certainly can with 5750 here, they take off here and head into the southwest in the summertime when it's hot. They have a full 5750 under them as well. And the same goes for heading back to the northeast in the fall when everybody's windows are closed, for occasional jets going over town, as well in the summertime landing here. But the reality is, this is what it takes, just like it was in World War II, to see that we have an incredibly safe airport that looks out for everyone and gives us the ability to be a progressive city and one of the main attraction points for our businesses, our secondary packaging, our Bible camps, our hotel industry, and so on down the line. We have a safe airport in the city of Alexandria because both runways in reality then are 5750 and ready for the 21st century and these modern jets that can take off on much shorter runway, as I was talking about before. This picture from South Carolina shows that whenever you ride in a private jet, don't push the pilot to get there quicker and run off the end of the runway in the process.